video focuses on the definition of minimal polynomial for a linear transformation and its association with an invertible transformation. Now, to prove the existence of a minimal polynomial for a linear transformation T over F, first we prove that T always satisfies a non-trivial polynomial over F, for which we need the following lemma. The lemma states that if A is an algebra with unit element over F, and suppose that A is of dimension M over F, then every element in A satisfies some non-trivial polynomial in Fx of degree at most M. To prove the lemma, we first consider E to be the unit element of A. Now, if A is an element in capital A, then the elements E, A square and so on, A power M are in A. Because A is closed with respect to multiplication as it's a ring, this is true. Now, since A is M-dimensional over F, by lemma 4.2.17, that is, any set of M plus 1 vectors in an M-dimensional vector space should be linearly dependent. So, there exist elements alpha naught, alpha 1, etc., alpha m in F, not all 0, such that the linear combination of these vectors in A should be 0. So, this implies that A satisfies the non-trivial polynomial Q of x, which is alpha naught plus alpha 1x and so on, plus alpha m x power m of degree at most m in Fx. So why this word at most m? See, here we have said that there exists scalars not all 0. So that means we do not know whether our alpha m 0 or alpha m minus 1 0 or alpha not 0. So what is 0 we do not know. So at the most, the degree of that should be at most m. So T, in the same way we can prove it for linear transformation. So only for that this lemma is proved. Every element in an algebra A, what should be that algebra? That algebra should be an algebra with a unit element. Okay, then any element will satisfy a non-trivial polynomial over F of degree at most m. This m denotes the dimension of this algebra, which is basically a vector space. So we prove it now for a linear transformation. Now, if V is an n-dimensional vector space over F, then given an element T in A of A, there exists a non-trivial polynomial Q of x in Fx of degree at most n square such that Q of T is 0. The 0 stands for zero transformation. So T satisfies a polynomial of degree at most n square. So that is what we were trying to prove. Now, if V is finite dimensional vector space of dimension n, then we know that home BV is of dimension n square. So that home BV is only denoted as A of A. Now, since A of A is an algebra and it has unit element, we can apply the previous lemma so that we can have every element in A of A satisfying a polynomial over F of degree at most n square. So there we had capital A to be an algebra of dimension m. So we had any element satisfying a polynomial of degree at most m. So here T is a member of A of A, which is of dimension n square. So any transformation will satisfy a polynomial over F of degree at most n square. Now there are polynomials satisfied by T. Now among the polynomials satisfied by T, there will be one with lowest degree, which T satisfies. So that is called a minimal polynomial for T over F. So if V is finite dimensional and T belongs to A of A, then a non-trivial polynomial P of x of lowest degree with P of T 0 is called a minimal polynomial for T over F. So minimal polynomial means it should be a non-trivial polynomial. The degree of that should be the least, which means you cannot have any polynomial whose degree is less than the degree of the minimal polynomial, which the T satisfies. So the degree should be least, it should be non-trivial, and the degree should be least and T should satisfy that. If these are the cases, then we call P of x to be a minimal polynomial for T over F. Now, in order to have that to be the minimal polynomial for t, we need to have the following result, for which we need the division algorithm, which states that given f of x and g of x in fx, there exist unique polynomials q of x and r of x such that f of x is equal to q of x into g of x plus r of x, where either degree of r of x to be 0 or degree of r of x is less than degree of g of x. So this division algorithm will be using in order to have that if we have p of x to be minimal polynomial for t and h of x to be any other polynomial which t satisfies, the relation between the minimal and any other is the minimal polynomial p of x should divide that any other polynomial. And you cannot have any polynomial whose degree is less than the degree of the minimal polynomial which t satisfies. So then we can call that p of x to be the minimal polynomial for t over f. So this result says that if p of x is minimal polynomial for t and h of x is any other polynomial which t satisfies, then the relation between p of x and h of x is p of x must divide h of x. Now the proof goes like this: since p of x is minimal polynomial for t, degree of p of x is the least, and p of t should be 0, that is t should satisfy that polynomial. We shall name this as equation 1. Now let h of x be any other polynomial in fx such that h of t is 0. Call that as equation 2. Now we will apply division algorithm to p of x and h of x so that we can find the polynomials g of x and r of x such that h of x is equal to g of x into p of x plus r of x, where either r of x is 0 or degree of r of x is strictly less than degree of p of x. Now we claim that this r of x should be 0 and not this one holds. So suppose we have h of x is equal to g of x into p of x plus r of x with this possibility. Then we are going to rule out this possibility. So when we consider h of t, from this we have that to be g of t into p of t plus r of t. Now because h of t is given to be 0 and p of t is already 0, we get r of t to be 0. So with degree of r of x less than degree of p of x. That's a contradiction to statement B. What is statement B? Degree of p of x is the least such that p of t is 0. So we have we get a contradiction, and therefore r of x should only be 0. We cannot have this possibility to be true. So once you have r of x to be 0, this becomes h of x to be equal to g of x into p of x, which automatically implies that p of x divides h of x. Now we have the definition of regular and singular transformation. So for which we talk about right invertible transformation. When do we say that a transformation to be right invertible and left invertible, and both right and left invertible, which we call as invertible, and then any invertible transformation is otherwise called as regular transformation. A transformation which is not regular is called a singular transformation. So they are defined in these two definitions. An element t in A of A is called right invertible if there exists an element s in A of A such that Ts is 1. Here 1 denotes the unit element of A of A, that is the identity linear transformation. So the composition of this should be equal to the identity transformation. Similarly, we can define a transformation T to be left invertible if there exists u in A of A such that ut is 1. That is the identity transformation. So left invertible means to the left of T u should be there. Some invertible, I mean, if we want to say that T is left invertible, to the left of it we need to have a member of A of A. Of course it should not be 0. And right invertible means to the right of T we should have a non-zero linear transformation. So that the composition gives us the identity transformation in both the cases. An element T in A of A is invertible or regular if it is both right and left invertible. If it is both right and left invertible, we call that to be a regular transformation. That is, if there exists an element S in A of A such that St is equal to Ts is equal to 1. And in such case, we write our S as T inverse. an element in A of E which is not regular is called singular. That is, it is called a singular transformation, which means it may either be right invertible or left invertible, but it is not both. Now, it is possible that an element in A of E is right invertible, but it is not invertible. So, for that we consider this example. If we consider F to be the field of real numbers and V to be the set of all polynomials in X over F, then in V, we will consider two transformations. One is S, the other one is T. So, let S be defined in this way. It takes any polynomial to its derivative, and let T be another transformation which takes any polynomial to the integral of q of x dx integrated between the limits 1 and x. Then by the fundamental theorem on calculus, we can easily establish that Ts is the identity transformation. That is, q of x when we consider the image of q of x under this composition, we will get back the same q of x. That is because of the fundamental theorem on calculus. Now, we will have this st to be not equal to 1. So, for which if we have to say something is not true, we have to produce a counter example. So, we will consider a polynomial, say q of x to be 1 plus x. You can consider any polynomial. For the sake of simplicity, this simple polynomial is considered. Then q of x, when you operate q of x first on s and then on t. So, what is that we get? Q of x, when we operate q of x, when we operate s on q of x, what is s? We have to have the derivative of that. And then what we have to do? We have to integrate between the limits 1 and x. So when we replace this q of x by 1 plus x, that on differentiation gives us 1. So when we integrate 1 with respect to x, we get x between the limits 1 and x. So we get upper limit first and then the lower limit. So we get x minus 1. But that is obviously not equal to q of x. So the images are not equal. Therefore, the mappings, that is st, cannot be the identity transformation. So we don't have t to be invertible, which means t is singular. So in fact, it is right invertible, but it is not invertible. That is, it is regular. It is not regular, and it is only singular. And actually, in a corollary to the following theorem, we are going to prove that whenever V is finite dimensional vector space, then if we have T to be right invertible, then automatically it will become invertible. In this case, we don't have this V to be a finite dimensional vector space. So that is the reason why we will not, we are not getting this to be invertible. So this is an important theorem which gives the criterion for any linear transformation to be invertible. So if V is finite dimensional over F, then T in A of E is invertible if and only if the constant term of the minimal polynomial for T is not equal to 0. So we shall consider P of X to be this polynomial, and which is not a trivial polynomial. Let it be the minimal polynomial for T over F. So minimal polynomial means T should satisfy that polynomial. So that is what we have stated here, and it is named as equation 1, and degree of this should be the least. We are naming that as statement P. Now what we are trying to prove in one way is if the constant term of the minimal polynomial is not equal to 0, then T is invertible. So what we are going to assume is, suppose the constant term of the minimal polynomial for T is not equal to 0. So we have alpha naught to be not equal to 0. In that case, what we are trying to prove is T is invertible. We have assumed the constant term to be non-zero. So naturally, we will have to prove that T is invertible. So we consider the equation 1, that is this, P of T equal to 0, that is written in this way. And from here, retaining only this and taking the rest of the terms to the right side, this is what we get. And from this, we have the step taking T out. And from here, because alpha naught is not equal to 0 that we have assumed, I means the identity transformation is equal to minus 1 by alpha naught operated, we have this center transmission. Alpha 1, this must be actually alpha 1 I, that I is missing here, and here also I should be there, because the rest are all the transmission. So here also we should have the identity transmission. So this is what we get. It is taken to the right and it is taken to the left. So we can name the whole lot as, say, some capital S, so that this relation becomes identity transmission is equal to ST is equal to TS. So this shows that S is an inverse for T. Now we also note that S is different from 0. That is, it is not a 0 transmission. Now suppose we have S to be 0, then T would satisfy a polynomial of degree k minus 1. If this is 0, then T will satisfy a polynomial whose degree will be k minus 1, say alpha 1 plus and so on alpha k x power k minus 1. So that will be the polynomial satisfied by T. But that is not possible, because we have from statement P, degree of P of x is the least. So we will get a contradiction to that. That is, T will satisfy a polynomial whose degree is less than the degree of P of x. That cannot happen. So T must be invertible. We consider, why this is established? Because we should always have, whenever we have this, we should ensure that this S is non-zero. We should ensure that this S is non-zero. It's only for that purpose these steps are given. Otherwise, here itself we have said that T has right inverse, and S should not be 0. That is a condition. Now for the converse part, we shall assume that T to be invertible, and what we need to prove is alpha naught is not equal to 0. This is what we have to prove. We will assume the contrary. That is, suppose alpha naught is 0, then we should get a contradiction. Now from 1, we have P of T to be 0. This implies that 0 is equal to alpha 1 T and so on, alpha k T power k, because alpha naught is 0, it will not be there. So we have this, and as before, this T is taken out. And in 2, what we do is we apply T inverse on both sides. So this is what we get. Here again that I is missing. Now T satisfies the polynomial Q of x. The degree of this is obviously k minus 1. Since the degree of Q of x is less than that of the degree of the minimal polynomial, we get a contradiction to statement P. This is what statement P is. We get a contradiction. The contradiction arose because we assume the alpha naught to be 0. So we conclude that alpha naught should not be 0. Now there are 3 corollaries to this theorem. The first one is this: if V is finite dimensional over F, and if T belongs to A of A is invertible, then T inverse is a polynomial expression in T over F. Now actually this one straight away follows from the theorem, but anyhow we will again repeat that those steps. We shall take P of x to be the minimal polynomial for T over F. Then T satisfies this, and degree of P of x is the least. Now since T is invertible, T inverse exists, and by the above theorem, because T is invertible, the constant term of the minimal polynomial should not be 0. So from equation 1, this is what equation 1 is. From here, as we did in the previous theorem, the same steps are to be repeated. So alpha naught I is equal to minus alpha 1 T and so on. We have this, and in this T is taken out, so this is what we have. So alpha naught I is alpha 1, and the same thing is written again. So from here, by taking T out, this is what we get. Here again I is missing. In both the places I is missing, and this in turn gives I is equal to ST, TS, ST is equal to TS is equal to identity transmission, where S stands for this. Now S acts as an inverse for T, and we also note that S is not equal to 0. Same wordings, everything is repeated. Thing is, here instead of S, we are denoting that as T inverse. So this is obviously a polynomial expression in T over F. So it follows straight away from the theorem. Now corollary 2 is, if V is finite dimensional over F and T belongs to A of A is singular, then there exists an S which is different from the 0 transmission in A of A, such that this composition ST equal to composition TS is equal to 0 transmission. Now V is finite dimensional, T is singular. We are given T to be singular. Then if it is singular, then there exists an S which is different from 0 in A of E such that this holds. Now let P of X be the minimal polynomial for T over F, then P of T should be 0, which means this equation holds. It is named as 1, equation 1. And also we have degree P of X to be the least, so we have that to be statement P. Now because T is not regular by the above theorem, the constant term of its minimal polynomial must be 0. See, if it is regular means constant term not equal to 0. If it is not regular means constant term should be 0. So we get P of X to be this. So T satisfies that. So even from this equation that we can get alpha 1 T plus and so on alpha K T power K, we get that as 0. And if S is taken as this expression, then S is not equal to 0 by statement P. Again, the same explanation what was given in corollary as well as in the theorem, same explanation. Now from equation 2, we get ST to be equal to TS to be equal to 0, and that proves the corollary. Now corollary 3 is if V is finite dimensional over F and T belongs to F is right invertible. So here we are given V to be finite dimensional. Then in that case, if T is right invertible, then automatically T becomes invertible. So let T be right invertible, then there exists one U in A of A such that to the right of the T we can have it. So TU is identity transformation. If T is singular, so our aim is to show that T is regular. Suppose it is singular, there would be an S not equal to 0 in A of E such that ST is equal to 0. This follows from the previous corollary, corollary 2. So we have S not equal to 0 such that ST is equal to 0. Now we shall consider this 0 transformation, which we can write as 0 composition of 0 with U, replacing 0 by ST, is what we get. Composition of mapping is associative, so we have this step. And this is nothing but identity transformation. TU is nothing but identity transformation, so this is what we get. And this is just S. And from here S is not equal to 0, that is what is written. But already we have this, because of this interpretation, our S is to be 0. So we cannot have S to be both 0 as well as non-zero. That is not at all possible. So that's a contradiction to a fact that transformation cannot be at a time both 0 as well as non-zero. Contradiction to the fact. So we have T to be regular because our assumption is wrong. Assumption is wrong, so we get a contradiction, and therefore T is regular, or in other words we have T to be invertible.